Hello and welcome back to the Publisher Podcast from Media Voices. I'm Peter Houston and we're exploring the people and the products powering publishing, both through this podcast and in our adjacent weekly newsletter, which you can sign up for at voices.media. So I just got the opportunity to talk to Mr. Neil Vogel, who is the man in charge of People Inc., the newly renamed People Inc., and that was for a project with the global media network FIP, which is 100 years old this year. And I thought it was too good an opportunity to get Neil on the Media Voices podcast, but first I wanted to talk to Alistair Lewis, Chief Exec at FIP, about the magazine that we're doing, about FIP's centenary, and about the upcoming Congress in Madrid, which I'm very much looking forward to. Alistair, are you looking forward to it?
You know what it's like at this point. We're a month out. I am really looking forward to it, and I'm also slightly crapping myself about it. I think that's natural.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it? People buy tickets so late for stuff. It's crazy. Why don't they just plan?
Yeah, well, they'll miss out.
Anyway, we're doing this magazine, which has been an absolute joy to work on. What was FIP's thinking in making a magazine for the 100th anniversary?
It was quite a big decision to make, actually, and something that we thought and looked into quite long and hard. You know, as with all media companies and publishers these days, the reality is actually making a magazine, it's an expensive business. And, you know, FIP is a small business, but we really felt that to celebrate 100 years, we really wanted to put something together that was going to be a really great celebration of the industry that we have been a part of for 100 years and that we have hopefully helped to shape in some way or other. And so despite, you know, wanting to be confident of the business model and making sure that I knew how it was going to kind of wash its face, it was really a no-brainer, I think, for us to celebrate 100 years of FIP with what will be, actually, it's a book.
Yeah, it's 200 pages.
It's a real celebration, not of FIP, it's not a navel gazing. I think that was something that I was really keen to make sure we got across. This is not some sort of history of FIP by any means, but it is a celebration of 100 years of magazines, and to that end is suitably forward-looking, and you know, I think focuses quite rightly on what I call magazines in their broadest sense. So People Inc. are a magazine publisher. But of course, you know, that's far more these days than ink and paper, you know, albeit those are important elements of it. So I'm really delighted. I'm really excited to see the finished article. I've been lucky enough to view some of the pages and articles as they've come through, but to see it all come together, I think will be a great way and a great gift that we're going to be giving to everyone that comes to the FIP Congress in Madrid.
Yeah, it's been a joy. Just to lean into that idea that it's not just about looking back. There's a 12-page AI feature in there that we talked to loads of people for. And we've talked to all sorts of people. People Inc., obviously, but we talked to Vicatan in India. We're talking to people in Japan. We've talked to people in Spain, Holland, France, all sorts. So it's properly international. Just like the Congress.
And that's what FIP is all about. And that's what FIP has always been here for since it was inaugurated 100 years ago by publishers in France and the UK and Spain and elsewhere who wanted to have a body that was going to enable them to learn from each other, listen to each other, see what trends were driving business in one market and the other, and look for opportunities to expand their businesses outside of their home countries. And you know, fundamentally, that's what we've stood for throughout this period. So, you know, it's absolutely right. And it's fitting that the magazine as well reflects, what is it now? People from 37 different countries are going to be coming to the Congress in Madrid, which is awesome.
So what are you most excited for the Congress? It's at the end of October. What are you looking forward to?
Well, there's kind of three things I'm really looking forward to. The first is I'm just really looking forward to seeing our community again. That sounds trite, but it is, again, that is what we are here to do, in my opinion. The Congress is really about making connections. I want people to leave the event not only having been inspired by the speakers, the case studies, the different examples that they've heard and listened to on the stage, but more importantly for me, at having met 3, 4, 5 people that actually are going to help them grow their business in some way next year. That for me is the single biggest kind of metric, and it's a really important part of how we try and run the event, whether that's through more formal kind of networking opportunities and the app that we'll be putting out in the next couple of weeks for delegates to connect with each other and to set up meetings, but also the informal, there's conversations that will no doubt be happening in the bars of Madrid late into the night. Specifically, we have 2 new elements this year that I just want to mention. One is we're introducing a series of workshops and masterclasses for the first time. So these will run concurrent to the main program. We've got 5 fantastic partners who are going to be providing those masterclass or workshop opportunities. We've got Atlas talking about growing your subscriber business. We've got FT Strategies looking at establishing an AI strategy. We've got a fantastic course being run on high-level leadership by Chris and Mary at Newer. And then we've also got Pro Rata and Miso, both of whom are going to be providing, I think, some really important insights for publishers to start to collaborate and start to fight back against the bots and the larger tech platforms. And thirdly, we've invested this year quite substantially in being able to properly record and stream all of the content on the main stages. So one of the learnings that we took from last year is partly because of what I was saying about meetings and connections. Quite a lot of people come to the end of 2 days and say, well, it was brilliant. I met with 15 people, but actually I'm disappointed because I didn't get to see Peter talking about magazines on the main stage on the second afternoon because I was having a great conversation with someone. So we've addressed that this year. We're working with a streaming company who are going to make access available within 3 hours of the sessions. If you've got a ticket for the event, you'll be able to log on and stream any of the sessions on the 2 main stages. And obviously then you'll be able to access those as well after the event, so you can come back and download your thoughts if you like. That's an important additional element that we're excited for this year.
So if anyone out there is sat with real serious FOMO thinking, I want to be in Madrid, what did he do? Is there any tickets left?
There are 25 tickets left as of this morning. Only 25 tickets left. I'm delighted, honestly, that we're at this stage. You're right, people tend to leave it late, and I'm slightly worried that some people might miss out. Go to fipcongress.com and you'll be able to register for a ticket, whether you're a member, whether you're not a member. There's a variety of options available. And actually, no one will miss out. When those 25 physical tickets are sold out, you will now be able to buy online only access. So we'll be offering an online ticket, so no one will miss out on all of the great content that we're going to be putting on the stages.
So whether you grab one of those last remaining tickets and come to Madrid, or get yourself online access, get yourself sorted now at fipcongress.com. Huge thanks to Alistair and everyone at FIP for their permission to use this interview with Neil Vogel. We had a great chat about the power of print, so long as you're not sentimental about scale, how advertising is very much alive, especially if you can connect with audiences and advertisers in clean, safe, well-lit and happy environments, and how Google is the worst guy when it comes to publishers and AI. But of course, I started my conversation with Neil by talking about that People Inc. rebranding. My first question is very, very obviously, why the name change, which I love, I have to say.
Thank you.
Dotdash Meredith never rolled off the tongue. So why the change? Why have you gone to People Inc.?
You got half the answer. I think when we put the companies together like 3 or 4 years ago, the last thing we wanted to do was create a name controversy with our newly merged 3,500 plus employees. So we just stuck the names together. And the one bit of ego was we put ours first. So we were Dotdash Meredith, a name that was universally hated around here. Like none of us liked it. I didn't like it. My boss, Barry Diller, didn't like it. But the truth is we wanted to sit with it for a bit and see what it felt like. And I'm really glad that we did, because when we really started to think about, we needed a name that had some resonance. Like we're not going to go and invent something like Lexus or whatever. It turned out when we looked around, we had the right name here. And I think like a lot of great companies, our flagship brand is people. It's a really big part of our business. And it also dovetailed with like what's happening in the universe today. So much is artificial and so much is contrived. And so much is just like not human. We thought that People Inc. was a great name for that reason too, because everything we make, whether it's digital, whether it's social, whether it's print, whether it's apps, whether it's Apple News, whether it's events, like it's all based on human experiences and what humans do. So we thought People Inc. was a really nice name. It also rolled off the tongue. Also, you know, when you're Dotdash Meredith and you go to a cocktail party, the first thing you say is, oh, we're people and food and wine and travel and leisure. You had to stop saying that. And then the little teeny Easter egg, which we liked, was some of our biggest brands, actually most of our biggest brands, were originally Time Inc. brands from back in the day. And we like, again, for the old print heads in the room, we like the nod back to Time Inc. that People Inc. is. And we love it. Like we actually, it's been so well received. We actually had a whole trade campaign planned for the fall this year that we didn't do because we got so much earned media pickup, we didn't have to. So, now we just have to like make the business work and live up to the name.
Yeah, well, that's the hard part, right? You answered my next question was how's it been received, and you know the fact that you didn't run that campaign, it says it all. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny. It fits. It feels a bit like a, what did someone say? Someone here said it feels like a warm hug, and it's almost like not like a name change because it kind of was our name. You'd always tell people we're people anyway, so we like it. It's cool.
What's the circulation on that magazine these days?
Oh, God.
I remember interviewing Larry Hackett years ago, and Larry was the editor when the circulation was like, I don't know, 7 million or something.
Yeah. So what we've done, and it's a good like print question. When we got here, what we realized was the demand for a really good print product was still there. Like people liked reading them and were willing to pay for a high quality product. What wasn't there anymore was the advertiser demand, right? Advertisers had moved on to lots of other things. And even if you could make the case print worked, no 26-year-old media buyer wanted to go to their boss. You're not winning a Cannes Lion for your print campaign, right? So nobody wanted to do that. So what we really focused on doing our first few years here was taking the print magazines, the Old Time Inc. and Meredith print magazines, and finding the ones that had real resonance where people were willing to pay for a very high quality product. And if we could put forth a really beautiful book and people were willing to pay for that book more than it cost us to make it, we would keep making it. And People is one of those books. And what we've done is we've taken circulations way, 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 way down, because those old crazy circulation numbers were people who paid you and then the gazillion magazines you send out for free to support advertising. The one freeing thing about advertising going down is you don't have to do that anymore. You're not like chasing it anymore. So our magazines can be profitable on a significantly lower advertising base, but in many cases a higher subscription price that people are paying for a really, really, really high quality product. And you know, I don't know what People was at some point, but it could have been 7. I bet you it was even more than that. Now I believe it's plus or minus 2. But those 2, like none of them are free. People will pay for them because they value them. And it also is a sea change for these brands, because one of the other things that we didn't believe is like, we didn't want to put out a shitty product to have a 7 million circulation. We wanted to put out a product we're crazy proud of and have a 2 million circulation. Again, I'll get you the exact number. And that has been a really effective strategy, because what that then does is it doesn't make print this albatross. It makes print this really, really lovely, helpful, natural, organic part of a brand's mix. So if you look at like Food and Wine has a vibrant website, right? We're huge on social. We have a crazy event business with these Food and Wine classic events and best new chefs and all these other things that we do. And we have a very, very vibrant print magazine. And it's not leading the growth by any means, but it's a really big part of the story. And it can't be part of the story. You just can't be sentimental about scale. But if you make something beautiful, print still has incredible resonance.
I love that. You can't be sentimental about scale. In the old days, it was an annual subscription for $1, right? And you were shoveling these things out, and that just doesn't make sense anymore.
The one great advantage we had, and this is not really true anymore, but the whole crew that runs what's now People Inc., before we got here, almost none of us were publishers, like virtually none of us were. So when we bought Meredith and we saw the print math and economics, it just was like, wait, what is going on here? We had the freedom and a proper capital structure to get the ship righted. And I think going to the unsentimental, we didn't do it over 3 years. We did it over like 6 months. We basically ripped the Band-Aid off. We did one big thing, and now we're constantly adjusting and doing things. But we have a couple of magazines whose the subscription base is going up because we make a great product.
So obviously we've got all sorts of change going on. I actually just saw the Fortune article that you were speaking at their panel session on AI. This whole thing on no-click search. You've still got traffic, 25, 30% coming from search. So I read you said Google's the worst guy here.
It was a very snippable line, not accidental either. For a long time, Google was the front door of the internet. Google is no longer the front door of the internet because they're keeping the traffic. For a long time, they were keeping the traffic because they were doing things that favored like Google, like they do with Reddit. So they put Reddit on every page. They would put YouTube there. They would do this. And that hurt publisher traffic. And then they did other. Now there's AI on every page, right? Where there's an AI answer, and that also hurts traffic. When we put these companies together, Dotdash and Meredith, and it was basically Dotdash Meredith, Time Inc., 3-4 years ago, 60+% of our traffic came from Google, which was probably right for the internet at the time. And now it's down to the high 20s in percentage of traffic from Google. We're not complaining about that. Google's job is to answer your query however they see fit. And as a matter of fact, we're pretty good at this. Like our traffic has grown throughout this. So we lost all this huge volume of traffic from Google, but we patched it with some other stuff. Google search, mind you, not Google, like Google has other properties, but Google search is going down. What the outcome of that is it's a much tougher open web ecosystem. And the issue with all of this is, you can argue about Google's market power and whether they should or shouldn't be able to do things on their search page. That's not for me to decide, although I clearly have opinions on that. What is unfair is what's happening with AI. And what the old deal you have with Google is they can take your content, put it on their search page, they get a bunch of blue links, and they send traffic back to you, and it's a bargain. It's a bargain, whether it's fair or unfair, I don't know, but it's a bargain we're willing to make. That bargain is now off. Now they take our content and they use it in an AI answer, and we get nothing for it. Right? That cannot stand. And the issue that what has to get solved for publishers that we're working very, very hard on is, well, how do we get compensated for this? In order for us to get compensated for our content and our content creation, whether it's us or any creator in the world, right? Whether you're a travel site selling tickets or whether you're there's anyone who makes stuff on the open web, it's taken by Google now. One of two things has to happen. Whether it's Google or other LLM makers, there has to be a change in their attitude as to we need to now pay for this content. And you've seen some, from our perspective, better actors. OpenAI, we have a very big deal with. They're a very good partner for us. Like they're paying, that's good. But the nobody else really is. So everyone else is a degree of a bad actor, taking our stuff and not doing anything with it. Now, a few of those people have started to talk to us and a few haven't. Google is in the haven't bucket. So the second thing that we can do is we need to take back leverage. And one of the things we've done is we partner with Cloudflare, and we, along with a huge number of other publishers, are now blocking all the crawler bots so they can't have our content. We started doing this in early July. Since early July, phones started to ring. And a bunch of people who realize that our content is actually valuable because we're very scaled, we're very valuable. We're not like news or sports. We're like real research content, home, food, tech, travel, design, beauty, style, entertainment, all this stuff. Turns out that the inputs matter. It appears. And a number of these guys have called us and are now thinking through from a best efforts place of let's try and figure out how we can get you guys paid and make this work because we need access again. Great. What Google has done is the opposite. Google has not only not called us, but Google is using their market leverage to make it harder for us and doing it in one very specific way. The Google crawler that crawls your sites for search, right, which is still high 20s% of our traffic, is the same crawler they use for AI. So we can't block it. And there is no way they don't know this, right? Because it is not, I mean, they're literally paying individual engineers $1 billion and they're mapping every single protein in the human body. You can figure out how to separate these crawlers, but they're not. There's a reason they're not. And what we need to do is figure out a way that we can use leverage with everybody in the space, and we have to get somehow Google to change their behavior. Again, we would never, I'm not complaining that Google has decided to do something that benefits Google. They should. What we are complaining about is we've proven in 100 different venues, whether it's events or magazine subscriptions or advertising or anything, people are absolutely willing to pay for our content. It's very, very good. And they are just taking it and getting themselves paid for our content. And that's just not right. And I think a lot of the market's moving in our direction. They don't seem to be. They're obviously a very big player here. And that's the problematic piece with them.
Do you think they'll get it? Are you optimistic they'll figure it out?
I don't know. I'm neither optimistic nor pessimistic, but everything in the world is based on incentives. Their job now is humans come to Google with queries. They want to be able to answer the queries the best way for humans, and they want to be able to make money doing that. That is their sole business. They say all kinds of things like, oh, the traffic we're sending out to publishers now is higher quality than it used to be. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. It's not true. Any publisher will tell you. I was on a panel yesterday with again, I don't want to speak for them, but with a number of other publishing CEOs who are all like, that's nonsense. It's not true. So this whole don't be evil business has been flipped on its head, and it's all absurd. The thing that is most galling is the amount of money being invested in AI systems, which is fine, and being unwilling to pay for the input, right? Like you're building cars and you're unwilling to pay for the guy who makes the steering wheel, but I'm going to put a steering wheel on every car. And look, other LLMs have decided and are deciding that, oh, you know what? We're going to compensate these guys for their content because any number of reasons. We need to, our corporate clients are making us, whatever, I don't really care. Or we can't get it without paying them. Basically, Google is using their market power to deprive us of our ability to get leverage over them, which if they can do it, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, but they're doing it. So whatever. Well, I have no opinion as to what will happen. I'm hopeful. I would love to be their partner here, but heading in that direction.
Okay, forget Google for a second. Go back to print.
Yes.
Is print part of that thing moving forward where AI can't touch it and it's a leverage all of a sudden rather than this albatross that you spoke about before?
Again, we never look at print as an albatross for us. I mean, our current state of print is really, really healthy part of our business. And I think the one interesting thing is our fastest growing brands, and they're all growing digitally in events and in commerce and other stuff. All of our fastest growing brands have a print component. And we're even doing tiny print things for some other brands because it's so appealing to the edit teams and to the market. Again, they're not economically meaningful, but they're fun for advertisers and they're fun for the edit team and they're fun for the brand and for branding. So again, print for us, again, it's not a growth asset, but it's very stable. And we're not going to sit here and say it's growing, but it's not. There's parts of it that are growing, like our business that is, specialty publishing, which is the Prince Harry issue of People magazine. Those things still do really well, and that business is growing. But it's a very stable part of our media mix and a very exciting part of the brand mix. I didn't understand this when we bought Meredith. I was terrified of print, and I didn't get it at all, and I did not understand the gravitas that comes with print and being on a print cover. And it's wild. Like in People, we deal with every online influencer that has 3 million followers that you don't know. And if you put them even in like a middle page somewhere of People magazine doing something, they lose their minds in a good way, obviously. So there's real power to it. Again, you can't be sentimental to what it was. And you have to use it properly. Look, our websites are super different now than they were 3-4 years ago. Our entire business was essentially traffic to websites, the majority of it from Google, and make money doing that. And now our business is wildly diversified as to where audience is and how we make money. And if we didn't do that, we'd be in a bad place. And we've done a pretty good job. We're growing. Revenue's growing. EBITDA's growing. Our expectation is growing. I mean, we have these incredible advantages that we have some of, again, we're most of our business, almost all our business in America, but we've got some of the best brands in America under our tent, and understanding how to grow and leverage those brands is really important. And for these brands, like People is not People without print. Food and Wine is not Food and Wine without print. Travel and Leisure is not Travel and Leisure without print. But we have found that other magazines can be those magazines without print, because take Parents, for instance. Parents is an incredible property, but Parents' purpose is dealing with your kids. You're not going to wait for an issue to come out to figure out what stroller to buy, and you're not going to wait for an issue to come out to figure out how to get my kid's fever down. So Parents and print just didn't make any sense. But these other properties make a ton of sense in print.
I think about the number of brands that you've got, 40 brands, and you've talked about core brands maybe being a quarter of that. What makes it core? Where do those other brands sit? They're not just going to go away, right? Or maybe they are.
That's a really, really good question. So all of our brands have elements of value and reasons to exist, right? Some are bigger than others. Now, if you look at something like People has a huge reason to exist in a very traditional way. It is one of the largest single topic websites in the world. It's massive on social. It has this beautiful new app. It has an events business. It is a massive and growing, it's got a great print business, revitalized, rejuvenated brand that in a post-Google world, in a diversified media world, in a diversified distribution and diversified revenue world, it totally fits and works, right? Say the same thing about Better Homes and Gardens, but the mix is different. Better Homes and Gardens, one of its biggest businesses is we license products inside of Walmart. But the magazine does great. We do a lot of commerce, helping people buy things. The website is still super vibrant. So if you can touch a lot of the boxes, you have a future. But we have a bunch of brands that, for whatever reason, don't touch as many boxes. We're going to do what they need to excel in those boxes, but they're not going to be like the flagship brands. And it's also in this AI world, the biggest brands with the most resonance have what we call permission to do the most things. And they're the ones we're really investing in. It doesn't mean like Shape is a fitness brand. It's very small, but people love it. It's still great at recommending what sneakers to run in and the best yoga mat and some other things, but it is a much smaller opportunity relative to All Recipes, which is the biggest recipe site in the world. So what you have to do is, and what we have to do is there's a finite number of resources, right? Like you don't love all your children equally, you can't. And you have to, for Wall Street purposes, we bucket into core and non-core brands. And at the core brands, there's 19 of the 40-ish are core. There's probably 10 of those that are really scaled. And you just have to really allocate your resources. The good thing is when you do things for your bigger brands, your smaller brands get to sort of draft off the back of that, and they get to take what you've done and figure out how to make it fit for them. And they got to be smarter and craftier. And look, we've had some brands that we didn't think were going to be big, like Entertainment Weekly and InStyle, and the guys running them have done such a good job. They're up towards the top of what we do now. Again, you don't know how the market's going to move. You don't know what's going to happen. Some brands do great in an AI world, like People, and other brands like Investopedia, which is very, very evergreeny content, is going to be more challenged. So we got to figure out a path. The path for People is super clear. The path for Investopedia is going to take some work.
But that whole process is just figuring out, okay, this works for People. Let's keep going. Let's expand. Let's diversify. Investopedia, let's dig right in.
Pretty much. I mean, the hard thing when you're in a leadership position at these places is you have to get really comfortable with decentralized decision making, because what happens is how Food and Wine makes money and how Travel and Leisure makes money and how they address audiences and how they grow versus how People does it versus how Entertainment Weekly does it versus how Real Simple does it. Everyone is going to be different. And you have to get leadership at each one that you trust. And that you have to, they get budgets, they make decisions. The better they do, the more money they get. The worse they do, then we have to think about moving resources elsewhere. And in many cases, it's not the fault of the management team. It's the fault of the market. And in many cases, the management team does amazing things. But it's hard in that you have to get real discipline around. And here we need to get closer to users and closer to advertisers, like either direct or with minimal intermediaries. And if we can advance those things, we're going to be fine. And the other good thing about having 40 brands is a portfolio is really important. At any one point, there's brands at different places in their life cycle or growing or shrinking or whatever. I think the thing we're most proud of since we acquired the Meredith Time Inc. assets, we've done a really good job rejuvenating these brands and bringing them to the forefront of culture again. And like, we can talk about math and Google all we want, but if we can't be culturally resonant in what we do and we can't be special and must read or must attend, then we've got nothing. Like, the world doesn't need, excuse my language, the world doesn't need any more mediocre shit. And we just can't be mediocre.
One of the things you talked about making something that actually delights people was in the advertising side. Is that advertising revenue, I mean, to be blunt about it, is that advertising revenue worth fighting for? Everyone else is going, oh, reader revenue this, and we're going to events, and we're going here. You've got advertising revenue, I guess, is close to 50%. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. If you ever talk to a publisher who's a big part of their business is ad-based, and they tell you they're walking away from ad revenue, I'm trying to be nice about this. That is somebody who failed at ad revenue. That is not someone who made a choice.
A philosophical decision.
Yeah, we're philosophically, that is not true. So here's what we know. And the rules of media have been the same for the last 100 years. If you could build really vibrant audiences that connect with your brands and what you're doing in a positive way, you can connect them with advertisers and marketers that want to reach them. Full stop. It's not that complicated. What you're hearing from other publishers or from other people that say, oh, well, advertising's dead. No, it's not. It's not dead. There's always competition. What's dead is likely your audience. Like, you've lost scale or you've lost resonance. We haven't lost scale. We're growing. Like, our audiences, we're really, really smart about them and how we use data. Like, we're creating products like Decipher, which is, we have this great advantage. We don't do news. We don't do sports. We don't do politics. So whenever somebody is on one of our sites, we know if you're on the Better Homes and Gardens page, what color am I painting my newborn's bedroom? We know exactly what you're doing in life. Like, if you're in I need to make a blueberry pie, we know exactly what you're doing in life, right? If you're on like, how do I roll over my 401k? We know exactly what you're doing in life. So we can take that really, really tight data and use it to target ads. So it's not a cookie. It's not anything backward looking. It's like, at this very moment, what is someone doing? And we can put an ad there and it works. So you understand your audiences, you understand your offerings, you connect them to advertisers, you do it in like a way. Our environments are clean and safe and well lit and happy. And we're not talking about this horrible politics thing that happened. We're not in the culture wars, and it works great for us. And our ad business has been really great and really healthy.
So that's not going away anytime soon, right?
I mean, if it does, I'm probably not going to do any more podcasts.
I spoke recently with Nick Thompson at The Atlantic, and he talked about print being the one relationship that he can 100% control because he makes a magazine and he sends it to someone's door. But those relationships are obviously more complicated than that. You just spoke about the advertising side of that and knowing people in first-party data, all memberships and apps. Is that relationship thing, the people part of People Inc., is that something that you think about a lot, how you're going to keep these people with you?
It's like the only thing we think about. It sounds cliche, but when you talk about product and tech that supports product and editorial, what we're doing, and calendar and tentpoles and events, all we are talking about is how people, and we call it like outside looking in, how people see and experience our brands. And that is all that matters. And we say this all the time. There's control, and then there's like illusion of control. We have control over a lot of things. We like to think we have control over more of them. We probably don't. But if consumers want what you're doing and seek you out, you're like halfway home. And the issue is, on the ad side, there are new intermediaries getting between you and your money all the time. And on the audience side, there's all kinds of ways you have to compete to bring audience in. It used to be easy. Like, frankly, we were great at Google. And like, when Google's all your traffic, like, all right, this is like, it's a one-stop shop for everything. It's not healthy. Now we get traffic from 10 different places, which is a much healthier place to be, but also a lot more work. So everything is about keeping audiences happy and engaged. And, sometimes, and I know Nick really well, it's funny, our kids go to the same school. It would be really fun for us to have, in many ways, like 1 or 2 properties to focus on, but we've got 40 because of what we do. And scale is so important to us because it's very hard to work with the largest advertisers if you don't have the most scale. And the combination of scale and attention to audience, if you can get it right, can be really special.
Thanks so much to Neil for taking the time to speak with us. Don't forget we have a write-up of the key learnings from this interview on voices.media, or dropping into your inbox every Tuesday if you sign up to the publisher newsletter, also on voices.media. We'll be back next week with another look at the people and products powering publishing's future. Until then, keep up with all things Media Voices by following us on LinkedIn and subscribing to the publisher newsletter over on voices.media.